In 2011, Vegas Showgirl had a filly who would have thought she would have become the world's best racehorse.
The Cox Plate was always on the radar for our family.
You don't really expect to win these big Grand Slam races.
The first one was, we came in with anticipation but no expectations.
Hanging on to an entire grandstand for one roar, it's pretty special.
We went there just to be proud and hope she'd run up to her best.
Winx kept going by Hugh Bowman. What a win! Winx has bolted in the Cox Plate by 4 lengths to Criterion. Hard and Real ran third.
You only need to win one Cox Plate to be remembered forever. So that's how I saw Winx that day. She'll be remembered forever for this great performance.
They're set and they're racing. And Winx jumps well.
The second year was a great build-up with Hartnell.
But the two champs go together at the 600 metres. Hartnell's hit the front, Winx is going with him, and they've turned it on. The great race is on here.
When they set off together at the 800 metre mark, it looked like the classic race. So I just took a deep breath and knew it would be on.
But this is a blitz. It's a Winx blitz. 2 in a row, and she joins the all-time greats of the turf. Winx has won it by 6 lengths to Hartnell. Yankee Rose third.
Again, another special Cox Plate moment where she showed her dominance, not just beating a good field, but Hartnell was a serious racehorse. And that was Winx. She could pull out some exceptional performances in the grand final of each preparation.
Winx is a little bit edgy. She's a little bit edgy there in barrier number 5.
We were lucky enough to come back for the third.
Humidor to the outside. It's Winx in front by a length. Humidor on the outside is trying hard.
Watching the first 2 Cox Plates and how she surged away at the 400 metre mark, we thought when that run had started, she would make the same impression. But yeah, he just stuck with her like glue.
Humidor's coming at her. Winx is holding on. The great mare completes the great trilogy of the turf.
Hugh was still adamant that she had a bit left there, and she found the last bit, but by crikey she needed to, and it was an amazing and a reminder not to take things too cheaply and how it is hard to win races.
There's Winx going into barrier 6.
When we decided not to go to Ascot, to continue on and do the 4th Cox Plate, that was very scary in the fact that she was going for 4. No horse had ever done it.
Winx standing okay. D'Argento a little bit edgy. They're ready, racing. And Winx from barrier number 6 began beautifully.
I felt overwhelmed that day. I still disbelieve that we were lucky enough for that to happen.
Winx is staving off Ben Battle. Cometh the hour, cometh the legend. Greatness, Winx has done it. It's Equine Utopia.
I'm so proud of her and what she achieved doing it, and the people she inspired.
So 1's good, 2's very good, 3's outstanding, 4, it's just, you can't put words to that type of performance.
And she's in the winner's circle once again. 4-time Ladbrokes Cox Plate winner, ladies and gentlemen, Winx, Hugh Bowman and Chris Waller. What a team.
He just elevated me like no other horse has done, and yeah, she's a sporting icon and deservedly so.
And what an amazing performance for Chris Waller and all of his team to keep this mare up, dominating racing here in Australia for 4 years in succession.
Tom Magner rang me up one afternoon and said to me that Winx could be in the mix of coming here at Coolmore. There was a couple other farms that wanted her to retire there, and then he rang me back and said the Winx owners have decided to send her back where she foaled.
She's in probably horse heaven really. She's on, one of the greatest farms in Australia. She's got everything that you could hope to need if you're a retired horse.
I'm Hugh.
I'm Callie.
Hey Callie.
Lovely to meet you.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
She looks well.
She just loves life here at Coolmore.
What's this horse called?
Mm.
She's win a race?
Yeah.
1 or 2?
33.
In a row.
Yeah, in a row. That is.
And she won 37 in total.
Yeah.
Each decade has great immortals that people can relate to that did amazing things, but I think Winx will be remembered by others for her longevity and elite status for so long.